She healed the Tycoon's hidden wounds. The incredible surprise, 100 men showed up at her door. In Maplewood, where autumn leaves danced like forgotten dreams on the breeze, Sarah was a beacon of hope. A nurse with a heart that could revive the dead, she poured every ounce of love into everything she did. Laughter echoed in the halls of the small hospital, her laughter, warm as the October sun. She worked tirelessly, with Jack, her younger brother, waiting at home for her to be their rock. Little did she know that a storm was brewing on the horizon. Then came Ethan, a man so steeped in wealth that his presence felt like a jarring note in a sweet melody. A successful tycoon, he carried invisible scars. When he finally stepped into the hospital, the air crackled with a mixture of hope and hesitation. Sarah's eyes lit up with compassion as she greeted him. He needed help for a chronic ailment that was a reminder of the invisible prisons he lived in, a cold, corporate world with no room for heart. His first visit was only a few minutes long, but Sarah packed those minutes with warmth. She listened, really listened, as if every word mattered. A contrast to the cutthroat deals he navigated daily, her kindness began to break through the hard shell he'd built around himself. The way she smiled, the way her hands moved gently while taking his pulse, it stirred something deep within him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks, and their unlikely friendship blossomed amid the colorful leaves. Ethan found himself entwined in the fabric of Maplewood, absorbing its resilience, its heartbeat. He realized that life here was different. There were whispers of community, threads of connection that held people close. And Sarah? She was the centerpiece, the one who made it all feel like home, but shadows crept in when whispers began about Ethan's plans. Selling the hospital for profit? A betrayal that cut deeper than any wound. Sarah's trust began to shatter like brittle autumn leaves beneath falling footfalls. Facing the gathering storm, she took action. Soon, 100 men from the town were lining up at her door. They carried with them tales of how Sarah had been there for them, comforting a mother in distress, holding a child in crisis, saving lives with her fierce determination. Sarah's eyes widened as she looked out at the sea of faces filled with hope. "You're our heart, Sarah. Don't let him take it away," they pleaded. Emotions surged. She felt the weight of 1,000 stories heavy on her chest. Here she stood, a crossroads between growing affection and fear of losing everything. Would Ethan choose her values over the glittering gold of his old life? The question hung in the crisp autumn air. As she looked at those faces, Sarah knew this was just the beginning. Would they find a way through the maze of finance and feelings? The winds of change rustled the leaves outside, a reminder that in this small town, love, hope, and community were everything. Sarah's heart raced as the crowd's pleas echoed in her mind. "You're our heart, Sarah." Each word felt like a fight against the swelling tide of anxiety within her. She was no mere nurse, she was their lifeline, the pulse of Maplewood. And now, it felt like the life she had built, one filled with compassion and care, was on the brink of being stolen away by one man's choice. Ethan stood behind her, his expression clouded in confusion. He had arrived in Maplewood seeking healing, and instead, he had unknowingly unleashed an uprising. The faces of the townspeople blurred together, worn by struggle but shining with gratitude. It struck him hard. These were not just patients to Sarah, they were her family. "Ethan!" A voice called out from the crowd, strong and demanding. It was Mr. Thompson, an older gentleman with eyes that spoke of history and hardship. "What is your plan?" "Selling off this place would break all our hearts. Haven't you seen what she has done?" Sarah turned, her gaze locking with Ethan's. There was urgency in her eyes. Did he really understand the weight of his potential decision? Was he aware of the lives at stake beyond numbers on a balance sheet? Ethan started, his mind racing. He wanted to explain himself, to defend the logic of his actions, but the words got lost in the storm pulling at his heart. Here was a part of him yearning to be free from the chains of his corporate life, and here were the bonds of connection he never knew he could forge. The crowd began to murmur, their eyes burning with a fierce combination of hope and mistrust. "We need answers. We need to know where you stand." Another voice shouted, rising above the rest. The moment hung in balance. Sarah's breath caught, a blend of fear and determination wrestling for dominance. To propose change was one thing, to fight for the heart of the hospital was another entirely. "Ethan, if you go through with this, you will break them," Sarah said softly, her heart aching for both the community and the man standing beside her. "These people matter. You matter to them. You have a choice to be a part of this or to walk away. But I can't stand by and watch you destroy what we've built." He felt her pain seeping into him, and the weight of her words hung halfway in the air, challenging him to reach for something more than he had ever known. The world of finance was tempting, shining, but here was something infinitely richer. "I need to think," he said finally, stepping away from the threshold, away from the weight of the crowd's gaze. He dug his fingers into his palms, feeling the pulse of his own life, questioning everything he thought he wanted. As the crowd began to disperse, Sarah turned to face them. In their eyes, she saw not only belief but also expectation. "Let us band together," she said, raising her voice gently. "We can fight for this hospital and for our future together. We cannot allow anything to come between us." A surge of agreement rippled through the crowd, and she felt it wrap around her a blanket of unwavering support. But within herself, doubt flickered. Could she truly sway Ethan's heart to embrace this life she cherished? As she turned to leave, she caught Ethan's south eye across the street. Questions shimmered in the space between them, and then she wondered, would love expand the walls he had built for himself, or would it slip away like the autumn leaves swirling in the cold wind? In that moment, everything felt poised on the edge of a crumbling cliff. The wind rustled violently, warning of the storm yet to come. The future of the hospital hinged on a decision yet unmade, and Sarah asked herself one last question: who would stand by her side in the fight for Maplewood? What she didn't expect was for a revelation to finally change everything. Ethan walked away from the crowd, the sounds of their voices echoing in his ears. Each plea weighed on him like shackles, pulling him deeper into the turmoil that swirled in his mind. How could he reconcile the cold, calculated world of finance with the raw emotion that enveloped Maplewood? As he strolled down the empty street, he felt the chill of the autumn air wrap around him like a shroud. Memories flickered: his parents, hard-working people who had sacrificed everything for him. They dreamed of a better life for him, but what had it led to? A life devoid of intimacy, where connections were measured in profits and losses. He searched for clarity, but the reality of Sarah's words haunted him. If he sold Maplewood, he would destroy the heart of a community. Yet, the allure of financial freedom taunted him. He could escape the suffocating expectations of corporate life. "Ethan." A spontaneous voice broke through his thoughts. It was Ellie, the local florist, hurrying toward him with a determined look that he forced a smile, trying to hide the chaos within. "Hey, Ellie. What's up?" "You have to listen to Sarah," she said, her expression pleading. "This town needs you. These people need you." "Do they really?" "Absolutely." She placed a hand on his arm, sending a shiver of warmth through him. "You have a gift for bringing people together, Ethan. Can't you see it? You're part of something bigger here." He looked into her eyes, seeing the sincerity there. But, how could he be part of something bigger when he felt so lost himself? "What if I make the wrong choice?" he whispered, fear tinged with vulnerability. Ellie shook her head, her voice firm. "There are no wrong choices if your heart is in the right place. Just look around, Ethan." He turned to glance at the quiet streets of Maplewood. Memories of kindness flooded back: his first night in the town, the surprise dinner Sarah had arranged for him with the hospital staff, the laughter that echoed in the small community gatherings. Maybe if I had more time, he said, almost to himself. Then make the time. Ellie urged. Sarah believes in you. She sees something in you that you haven't discovered yet. Don't let fear win. His heart was a battlefield, and he could feel the tension crackling in the air. The storm of decisions loomed larger with every second that he recalled Sarah's passion, the way her eyes shined when she spoke about the hospital. There was a warmth there, a calling he had never quite felt before. Maybe I can, he started, but Ellie interrupted. Good. Talk to her. But don't let the moment pass. We need you, Ethan. As she turned to leave, her footsteps fading into the distance, he felt a swell of emotion surge in his chest. Each beat of his heart echoed the faces he had seen just moments before. Ethan took a deep breath and made his way back toward the hospital, a glimmer of hope ignited within him. There was still a chance to choose love over comfort, to choose the people over the bottom line, but as he neared the entrance, a sudden commotion drew his attention. A crowd was gathering around the hospital. Confusion laced the air, and he rushed forward, his heart racing again. What had happened now? What new revelation awaited him among the people? With every step he took, uncertainty clawed at him. The door swung open, and he stepped outside, standing on the threshold of something monumental, and then, in the midst of the crowd, he saw a sea of faces, more than he ever thought possible, all of them waiting for something. Would this shocking surprise be the catalyst that pushed him to choose his path to fight for Maplewood, or would the avalanche of pressure bury him under? Ethan stepped through the doors of the hospital, his heart pounding as he surveyed the scene unfolding before him. Faces animated with anticipation filled the entrance. He could see community members' families, friends, even strangers crowded together, their whispers rising and falling like a tide. What is going on? He called out, finding himself instinctively drawn closer to the action that a friendly face broke through the crowd. It was Mayor Jenkins, his usually serene demeanor replaced by a palpable energy. Ethan. You're just in time. He grinned widely, his eyes twinkling. We're here to surprise Sarah. She has no idea. Ethan felt a jolt of surprise. Sarah was always the one bringing people together, dedicating her time to make Maplewood better. For what? He asked, the question tumbling out of his mouth before he could stop it. Today marks her 10th anniversary as head of the hospital. Shouted a voice from the back of the crowd. She's done so much for us. Cheers erupted, ringing through the crisp autumn air. Ethan's heart faltered. This was a moment to celebrate the very essence of community, exactly what Ellie had meant. He took a step back, instinctively wanting to slip away. But a force within pulled him forward, forcing him to address the sight he could no longer ignore. As they all awaited Sarah's arrival, Ethan found himself absorbing the heartfelt stories shared around him. He listened to the tales of how Sarah had tended to everyone: nurses, doctors, patients. She had been a relentless fortress through illnesses, challenges. She had stood by families at their lowest. She listened, one woman recounted, her voice thick with emotion. When my son was diagnosed with cancer, it was Sarah who held my hand through it all. Ethan couldn't help but let a wave of admiration wash over him. Sarah had crafted a sense of belonging here, creating bonds that intertwined with everyone's life. How could he ignore that with his own plans? The minute hand on the clock ticked closer to the hour, and just as the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues against the hospital walls, Sarah appeared. As she stepped outside, the crowd erupted in a storm of applause. She paused, a look of bewilderment crossing her face before breaking into a smile that lit up her features. Everyone, what is this? She whispered, overcome by the avalanche of love washing over her. Ethan felt something shift inside him. He couldn't just watch, he needed to be a part of this, the joy, the heart. He swallowed hard, the weight of his decision pressing against his chest. This couldn't be just about business anymore, it was about people and connections. As Sarah approached, he took a step forward, drawn miraculously towards her. Sarah, he said, the name barely escaping his lips, but filled with intention. She turned to him, her eyes curious, glistening with gratitude. "Ethan. Are you part of this?" Before he could respond, the crowd murmured their excitement, begging for words from the man who could change their world, a man who stood on the brink of a monumental decision that in this moment, the reality of his conflict slammed against him. Could he truly walk away from everything he'd built in his other life? Would he fight for Maplewood and Sarah, the community, and the emotions stirring beneath the surface? Just then, as if sensing his inner turmoil, Sarah stepped towards him, her voice filled with warmth. "Ethan, I need your help more than ever. We can make this hospital flourish together." Her plea rang like a bell inside him. Hope mixed with fear, leaving him breathless. What was he willing to sacrifice to become a part of this? And as he stood amidst this powerful moment, he realized his answer might lead to a destiny he had never envisioned, but before he could articulate his next move, a loud crash echoed from the back of the crowd, and uneasy murmurs began to swell, breaking the momentary reverie. What was that? Ethan's heart thundered, knowing there were more surprises ahead, and this one could change everything. What conflicts lay in wait, ready to challenge their emerging vision? Ethan's eyes darted to the source of the noise. A large metal object had toppled over, sending a jarring echo through the late afternoon air. The collective gasp from the crowd drew him to the back, where he could see a stricken young man wrestling with a makeshift podium that had slipped from its moorings. A few people rushed to help, their concern palpable. "Is everyone okay?" Sarah shouted, her voice slicing through the murmur of confusion as she stepped up beside Ethan. Her face, lit with the glow of the celebration moments ago, now hardened with urgency. Ethan remained still, his shoulders tense. Watching her jump into action stirred something deep within him. She was a leader, a woman who inspired loyalty and support. It unsettled him that a simple accident shifted the air so swiftly. Just a little mishap, the young man laughed, trying to play it off, but the weight of the situation tugged at Ethan's heart. Moments earlier they had been caught in joy, and now anxiety rippled through the crowd. Sarah didn't just stand by. She moved closer to the fallen podium, gently placing a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Let us get this fixed," she encouraged, her voice full of warmth. Instinctively, Ethan stepped forward, ready to lend a hand. In that instant, the awkward barrier surrounding his previous life felt almost comical. "I've got this," he heard himself say, unsure of where the words came from. It was as though the tangled emotions inside pushed him, igniting a new sense of purpose. The two of them, working side by side, wrestled with the awkward shape of the podium. He could feel the drift of chatter around them fading away. Amidst the commotion and laughter, they forged a connection that blurred all previous doubts. With each movement, Ethan sensed layers of worry start to peel back. Every time their hands brushed a fleeting connection it struck as a promise, a hint of something deeper. He found himself glancing at Sarah frequently, her determination radiant. Finally, with a final shove, they managed to set the podium upright. The crowd erupted into a chorus of applause, the earlier anxiety lifting like fog dissipating in sunlight. Ethan felt a rush of relief mixed with excitement. This was what community felt like, people coming together to overcome obstacles, big or small. Just then, Sarah turned, beaming. "See? We make a great team." There was a spark in her eyes that sent butterflies racing through his stomach. "Maybe we do," Ethan replied cautiously, the words feeling foreign yet right. As they shared a moment of laughter, something unspoken hung in the air. He could hear his heart racing again, a stark contrast to the calm he thought he'd left behind, but that euphoric moment didn't last long. From the side, a figure stepped forward, cloaked beneath a heavy jacket and sunglasses, casting a shadow over his eyes. "Excuse me." The voice was sharp, slicing through the warmth. "I need to speak with Sarah immediately." A chill rushed down Ethan's spine. The sudden shift in energy felt like a storm rolling in. Who was this person, and what did they want with Sarah? Ethan's heartbeat quickened again, this time from anticipation and dread. As the crowd turned in curiosity, Sarah's expression shifted, nerves creeping in as she faced the new arrival. What is it? She asked, fortifying herself as the crowd clung to the moment. With every tense second that passed, uncertainty pricked at the edges of the celebration. What revelations awaited them from this unexpected visitor? As fear and excitement tangled together, Ethan braced himself for whatever confrontation lay ahead, knowing it might shift everything they had just built. The stranger's presence was electric, rippling through the crowd like a live wire. The tension hung thick in the air, a miasma of curiosity and dread. Ethan instinctively stepped a little closer to Sarah, his protective instincts flaring. He could see her small frame tense under the weight of the intruder's demand. "Who are you?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the unease flickering in her eyes. The crowd felt it too, whispers spiraled around them, each word a thread weaving a story that buzzed through the air. "Just someone who needs to talk to you," the stranger replied, their sunglasses reflecting the fading sunlight, hiding their eyes and emotions. "It's important." Ethan's heart raced. It was bizarre how quickly the atmosphere morphed from jubilant celebration to one of foreboding. He searched Sarah's face for a clue of what she was feeling, what she was thinking. But she stayed composed, trying not to let the intrusion shake her. "Whatever it is, can it wait?" "We're in the middle of a gathering," Sarah said, her expression firm, but Ethan could see a hint of confusion behind her bravado. The stranger took a step closer, lowering their voice. "This can't wait. You need to know the truth about your father." The air seemed to thicken at the mention of family, and Ethan's gut clenched at the emotional turmoil that could spiral from this revelation. Sarah's eyes widened, shock breaking through her composed facade as her hand instinctively clenched at her side. "What about my father?" she asked slowly, confusion morphing into disbelief. The crowd was now entirely focused on the exchange, a swirl of eyes and held breaths. Ethan's mind reeled. He wanted to protect Sarah from whatever storm this stranger brought, but he knew that the truth could be a double-edged sword. "Please, just listen. This isn't something I can explain here." The urgency in the stranger's voice was tinged with desperation, and for a brief moment, Sarah's resolve flickered like a candle in the wind. Ethan took a step forward. "Whatever it is, can't it wait until tomorrow?" His voice was steady but laced with concern. He could feel the weight of the crowd's attention, but more importantly, he felt the pull toward Sarah. "We can figure it out, away from all this." Sarah turned to him, her expression softening like the walls around her heart were slowly being chipped away. "Ethan," she started, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm right here," he replied, hoping to offer her some comfort amid the chaos. The stranger seemed to hesitate, the tension stringing tighter until it threatened to snap. "This is bigger than you realize," they said, voice low but insistent. "You might need to prepare yourself for a truth that changes everything." The crowd thrummed with anticipation, each person caught up in the unfolding drama. Ethan could sense the weight of their collective emotions, tension tangled with worry, curiosity, and something like hope. He glanced back at Sarah, seeing the sheer determination in her eyes wrestle with the storm of doubt swirling at their feet. "Let us get some fresh air," she suggested, taking a step away from the crowd. Her gaze flicked between Ethan and the stranger, weighing her decision. A flicker of apprehension crossed her face, but she squared her shoulders, ready to face whatever was coming. Ethan's chest tightened as he followed her lead. They were stepping into uncharted territory, a place where the tall tales spun by the crowd paled in comparison to the truth lurking in the shadows. He reached for Sarah's hand, intertwining their fingers, grounding them both amid the uncertainty. As they moved away from the crowd, the stranger's voice followed them, murmuring a single chilling sentence that hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. "This truth could change everything you thought you knew." What awaited them outside the safety of the gathering? Ethan's heart raced with dread mingled with anticipation. Would they be able to navigate this storm together, or would the truth tear them apart? The chill outside the gathering was palpable, the cool evening air brushing against Ethan and Sarah as they stepped away from the crowd. The whispers faded behind them, leaving an unsettling silence that seemed to amplify their racing hearts. Sarah halted, turning to face the stranger who followed them outside, their expression still obscured by those dark sunglasses. "Talk," Sarah demanded, her voice stronger now despite the tremor beneath it. "What do you know about my father?" Ethan stood beside her, a reassuring presence as the stranger shifted, their hands moving slightly beneath a faded jacket. "This isn't something I wanted to discuss in public, or possibly even in private," they said cautiously. "But it's crucial." "Then why not just tell us?" Ethan shot back, his protective instincts flaring again. "Why the games? This is our lives you're toying with." The stranger seemed to take a breath. Ethan thought he glimpsed a flicker of recognition in their stance, but it was gone just as fast. "Because what I know could have implications that reach farther than just your family. Just tell us." Sarah's voice cracked like thunder, reverberating in the stillness. She stepped closer, and for a moment, Ethan saw the vulnerability in her eyes, battling against the walls she'd built so carefully over the years. The stranger finally pulled their sunglasses down, revealing dark eyes that glinted with a mix of sorrow and urgency. "Your father," they began, hesitating as if the words were a weight too heavy to bear. "He wasn't he who you thought he was." "Not entirely." A knot twisted in Ethan's stomach. Voices from the gathering seemed to echo in his head, blending desperation and disbelief. They were both teetering on the edge of a cliff, faced with an unknown descent. "What do you mean?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "You don't know the full story. The man you idealized has secrets, things he did for you, but they come with consequences." The stranger's voice lowered further, intensifying the gravity of their words. "He had a life before you. A life he chose to hide to keep you safe. But it's coming back. And it's dangerous." Ethan could feel the ground beneath him shift. What kind of danger? He felt protective rage bubble up. The thought of Sarah getting hurt made his blood boil. The strangers shook their head. "I can't explain it all here. Trust me, you'll need to see it for yourselves. There's a meeting tonight, and it's your only chance to uncover the truth. When you learn what you've been shielded from, you'll finally understand why he left you in the dark." "Why would I trust you?" Sarah's resolve, though shaken, remained. "Because you have to." The stranger snapped, their urgency peaking. "This is bigger than you realize. You're in danger, both of you, and the only hope you have is to know what he didn't tell you." Ethan exchanged glances with Sarah, wondering if they were really prepared for what lay ahead. He could see the questions swirling in her mind. She wasn't one to back down, but the resolve was mingled with fear now. Finally, she exhaled a shaky breath. "Okay. Lead the way." The stranger nodded, stepping back as if inviting them to follow. Without hesitation, Ethan wrapped his fingers tighter around Sarah's. They moved forward into the night, guided only by the uncertainty of what would unfold. In the distance, shadows danced under the streetlights, as if reality itself quivered in anticipation. And just beyond the horizon, a storm was approaching, one that threatened to shake their world to its core. What would they uncover about her father? And would they be ready to face the consequences of the truth? The streets were quiet as they followed the stranger through the dim-lit alleys, each step echoing their anxious hearts. Ethan's grip on Sarah tightened, as though he could shield her from whatever lay ahead. The tension in the air felt like an electric current, buzzing with the unspoken possibilities of what they might uncover. The stranger led them to a small, nondescript door at the end of a narrow passageway, hidden away from prying eyes. It was weathered, painted a deep blue that had faded over time. Without knocking, the stranger turned the doorknob and gestured for them to enter. Inside, the room was illuminated by a single bulb, casting a warm glow over a circle of mismatched chairs arranged around a worn coffee table. A few faces turned as they walked in, each person wrinkled with age or lined with fatigue, like they had seen too much in their lifetimes. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation, an unspoken understanding that something significant was about to unfold. "Sit," the stranger instructed, pulling off their jacket and revealing a badge clipped to an inside pocket. Ethan narrowed his eyes. "You're not just anyone, are you?" "No," the stranger sighed, the weariness evident. I used to work with your father. I came tonight because it's time. Time for you both to understand the legacy he left behind. Sarah's brow furrowed, confusion battling with the urgent need to learn more. What do you mean legacy? Why should we care about that? Because it's more than money or status, the stranger replied, pacing slightly. He was part of something deeper, something that could change everything for you too, and that's where the danger lies. Ethan exchanged another worried glance with Sarah. What are you saying? What did he do? Your father was involved in activities that went well beyond the scope of a regular life. Think of it as a web connection spanning across dark corners, both good and bad. And he made decisions to protect you, but those choices are coming home now. The stranger's gaze grew steely. The people who want answers won't stop until they find them. At that moment, the oldest man in the room, a silver-haired figure with deep-set eyes, leaned forward. Your father's past is a haunting melody that plays the same notes, over and over. You have to be ready to face the chorus, and that requires courage. What do you suggest? Sarah asked, her voice steadying even as fear lurked just below the surface. You must decide whether to confront it or run, the silver-haired man said, his tone grave. But running won't keep you safe. It'll only push the shadows closer. Ethan's heart raced. The reality of their predicament was sinking in. They were on the brink of something larger than themselves, something that could change the course of their lives forever. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes ablaze with determination. We won't run. We'll face this, together. The stranger nodded, a mixture of relief and resolve crossing their face. That's the spirit. But remember, knowing the truth comes with a price. Are you sure you're ready to pay it? Outside, the wind howled, sending a chill through the room that made it feel even more intimate and threatening at the same time. As they prepared to dive into the heart of the mystery surrounding her father, a knock echoed through the stillness. All eyes darted toward the door. Who's that? Ethan whispered, suddenly feeling the weight of countless pairs of eyes on him. The stranger grimaced. We were supposed to have time. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Whatever lay behind that door would force them one step closer to the truth. They had already committed to this journey, but now, they had to brace for the fallout. What awaited them could shatter their understanding of family and safety, pulling back the curtain on secrets that lingered like shadows in the night. As the door creaked open, revealing a figure silhouetted in the dim light, they felt the ground shift beneath them once more. Who stood before them, and what new revelations would follow. The door swung open with a slow creak, revealing a tall silhouette that framed a figure cloaked in a dark overcoat. As the light from the room spilled into the hallway, the stranger stepped inside, and Ethan felt a mix of surprise and apprehension course through him. Frank, the newcomer said, his voice steady but layered with an urgency. We don't have much time. Ethan recognized him from photographs, his father's trusted associate, the man who had always been just out of reach. Frank was older than in the pictures, his hair nearly white, but the same fire flickered in his eyes. Now, who might you be? Frank's gaze shifted from the stranger to Sarah and Ethan, assessing them like a seasoned detective. Just here to help, the stranger replied, their tone firm. They deserve to know. Know what? Frank demanded, stepping closer, his voice rising. All you're doing is putting them at risk. Enough arguing, the stranger interrupted, their voice sharp. This isn't the time. They need to understand what is happening, and they need to understand it now. Ethan's heart pounded as he exchanged glances with Sarah, who seemed just as bewildered. The room was thick with tension, crackling like the electricity before a storm. Each second stretched, leaving no room for hesitation. Tell us, Sarah urged, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her insides. We need to know. Frank hesitated, studying their faces, before nodding begrudgingly. Your father was caught in a conflict much larger than we anticipated. He got involved with people who play with very high stakes. I thought I could keep it from you, but there are forces at work now that just tell us what we're dealing with. Ethan interrupted, desperation creeping into his tone. Don't hold back. Frank's eyes softened for a moment, as if recalling the weight of his own choices. A group is searching for something he left behind, a ledger of transactions that could expose the corruption and criminality behind them. They will stop at nothing to get it. Your father had it hidden for a reason. So, they think we have it? Sarah's voice trembled, yet it held a tone of defiance. What do we do? Frank sighed, a heavy sound filled with years of regrets. We need to move. If they trace those shadows back to you, there's no telling what they might do. The walls seemed to close in around them, reality pressing down like thick fog. They had stepped into a world of treachery that could consume them whole. Ethan felt a mix of anger and insecurity bubble within him. Had their lives always been this precarious, hidden behind layers of deceit? You don't have to do this, the stranger reassured, glancing at both Ethan and Sarah. But if you choose to continue, you will need to stand together. You're stronger than you think. The profound weight of those words sunk in, igniting something within Ethan. We won't back down, he declared, feeling a surge of camaraderie with his sister and even the strangers around them. What's the plan? Frank ran a hand through his thinning hair, his expression turning grave. First, we need to get out of here. Then, we'll assemble a team, one that will fight on your behalf. But be warned, the moment we move, every eye will be on you. Just outside, an engine roared to life, cutting through the chilling air like a warning bell. The stranger grimaced, they're already here. Panic rippled through the group. Ethan's heart raced as he looked at Sarah, their resolve solidifying. Whatever would come next, they needed to be ready to face not only the truth about their father but all that it would demand from them. Let us go, Ethan said, leading the way to the exit, his thoughts swirling with what lay ahead, but as they stepped out into the night, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Would they find the truth, or would the shadows finally catch up to them? And what treasures or dangers waited in the corners of their father's legacy? The chill of the night air wrapped around Ethan and Sarah as they emerged from the hidden room. The hum of the engine outside sent a shiver down their spines. This was no longer just about a hospital or Ethan's investment, it was about family, secrets, and the legacy of a father they barely knew. Stay close, Ethan whispered, gripping Sarah's hand tightly. Their hearts raced in sync, fueled by the urgency of the moment. The unknown loomed ahead, but together, they felt stronger. As they reached the exit, Frank peeked around the corner, his expression tense. They're circling the area, he said, brow knitted with worry. We have to move now. Ethan nodded, feeling the adrenaline surge through him. Every instinct was heightened, they were stepping into a storm, they hurried down the dim alleyway, the echoing sound of footsteps behind them making the night feel even heavier. Sarah's face was pale but resolute. What if they catch us? She blurted, fear slicking her voice. They won't, Ethan promised, not entirely sure he believed it himself. We have each other. That's what matters. As they turned the corner, the stranger gestured toward an old van parked beneath a flickering streetlight. In here. It's our best shot. They climbed in one after the other, heartbeats pounding in rhythm with the engine. Drive, Frank instructed, eyes darting for any signs of danger outside. As they sped away, a sense of urgency filled the air, mixed with the noise of their racing thoughts. At that moment, they were a singular force. We need to talk about what's next, Frank said as the city lights blurred by. We can't hide forever. We need a plan to confront this. What are we up against? Sarah asked, trying to steel herself against the unknown. What kind of people? They're dangerous, powerful, Frank replied, his voice grave. And they won't hesitate to use fear against anyone in their way. Your father was involved in something significant. They believe you might know where he hid the ledger. Ethan exchanged a glance with Sarah, their fears flickering into understanding. Her father's choices were now a cross to bear together. So what do we do? Ethan's voice steadied, determination blossoming. We can't let them take everything from us. Frank nodded. We stand our ground. We gather evidence, find the ledger. It's the key to not just your father's past but your future as well. Whoever gets their hands on it controls everything. A sharp turn brought them to a small safe house on the outskirts of Maplewood. It was unassuming but had a warmth that reminded Ethan of home. They climbed out of the van, scanning the surroundings for any lurking threats, before huddling inside. Let us regroup, Frank said. We'll need allies. Family first, Ethan declared, heart swelling with newfound purpose. We have people who care about us. We can't do this alone. From that point, they expanded their network. Ethan reached out to those in Maplewood who supported the hospital. Sarah spoke to others whose lives were touched by her father's choices. As the days unfolded, the urgency shifted into hope. The community rallied, they shared their past with Ethan and Sarah, pouring out stories that connected the dots. Ethan was surprised by the strength of these connections. Maplewood was more than just a town, it was their lifeblood. Finally, the moment arrived, the meeting set to confront those who cast shadows over their legacy. Are you ready? Sarah asked, her voice laced with anxiety. As ready as we can be, Ethan replied, determination set in his eyes. He took her hand tightly. We'll face this together. The other side had a way of working through fear, but they were prepared for a battle, not just for their family's honor, but for the heart of the community. As they entered the dimly lit room for the confrontation, muffled voices buzzed around them. Ethan and Sarah stood side by side, hearts racing, bracing for the storm. This was the beginning of something beautiful, a transformation catalyzed by the resolve of a small town backing them. Let us make this count, Ethan whispered, squeezing Sarah's hand one last time before stepping into the fray. They were stronger together, a union forged in fire. The truth was in sight, and whatever lay ahead, they wouldn't back down. They would reclaim their father's legacy and protect the heart of Maplewood. This was their moment, and as they prepared to speak, they realized one thing: family isn't simply blood. It's the commitment to stand by one another, fight for what is right, and embrace the journey forward together. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.